Most designers who switch to Claude end up doing exactly what they were doing with ChatGPT. One question in, a generic answer out, and then wondering why nothing has changed. The designers getting real time savings have set Claude up properly. Project skills connectors, studio specific, and that is a completely different experience. I've been designing across Australia and Hong Kong for over 20 years, and I'm going to show you the setup I use in my own practice and when I work with designers I coach in my program, Design for Success. If you find this useful, make sure you hit like and stay for the whole thing. You won't regret it. Let's go. Before we get into this, a quick note. Everything I cover in this video, plus my full free AI course for interior designers and a library of templates and resources, is inside my free community. It's called the Design Success Circle. Link is in the description. Join now before you forget and then come back. I just want to mention that people ask me, why do I give so much free content? Well, I understand that most of the services that I do are one-to-one, and it does add up. And some designers don't quite have the budgets yet, but I hope you do get something out of this video and understand that I'm here to help. Here is what I want you to get clear on before we look at any features. Most designers use Claude to ask questions. Power users use Claude to complete whole tasks. These are not the same thing. Asking Claude to help you write a scope of works is a question. You'll get a generic answer and spend 20 minutes cleaning it up. Having a skill that takes your site visit voice notes, runs it through your own framework, drafts a scope, and pushes it directly into Notion, that's a task, and that's 3 hours back in your week. Everything I'm going to show you builds towards that second scenario. So let's get started. The first thing I want to show you is how to set up the foundation. And I know settings sound like the boring part, but this is where the time savings actually start. If you haven't downloaded the Claude desktop app yet, jump over to claude.com and grab it. It's available for Mac and Windows. It allows you to use the app, which gives you the ability to use co-work. So once you're in, go into settings. This is where you put your custom instructions, and this is the most underused feature in Claude. So once you've logged into Claude, first thing you're going to do is go into settings and hit general, and this is where you're going to put in your custom instructions. And this is the personal preferences that you want Claude to consider in all the responses that you have across everything that you're working on. So you can see mine is fairly detailed, but most people do leave this completely blank. And this is a single missed opportunity in Claude. So you need to think of this as a briefing document that Claude reads before every single conversation. And if you get it right, it will make your chats better automatically. And here's what a good set of custom instructions actually contains. First, who you are and what you do, your studio name, your niche, the cities you work in, your background. Second, your client, who you work with, what they need, and what stage they're at. Third, your voice, how you want Claude to write for you, key phrases you use, things you never say, and your tone. Fourth, your tech stack, the tools you actually use. SketchUp, Canva, Notion, whatever your real workflow looks like. And fifth, your goals, what you're working toward right now, so that Claude suggestions are always pointed in the right direction. The more specific you are, the better Claude performs across every chat every time. Heads up, if you're already using ChatGPT and you have saved memories or a custom profile there, you can import that in here. So head over to Capabilities and hit Start Import. It gives you a prompt to paste into ChatGPT, which exports everything it has learned about you. Clean it up though before you bring it in. A lot of what gets collected is outdated. So ask ChatGPT to review the list and remove anything from the last 3 months that no longer applies. Then paste the clean version here. And while you're in Capabilities, let's toggle memory on. This lets Claude learn how you like to work the more you use it. So also turn on artifacts and visualizations, and we're going to come back to those. And before you leave settings, jump into privacy and check you're not opted in to having your conversations used to train the model if that is not what you want. Moving on to the next thing, custom styles. Custom styles are one of the most underrated features in Claude, and for designers, they can be particularly useful for those quick messages. So, what's a custom style? A custom style is a saved set of voice instructions that you can apply to any chat. You set it up once and it just knows and understands what you want to do. So instead of explaining your tone every time you ask Claude to write a client email, it's already there. So let me show you how to set up an example, an inquiry responder. So when a potential client emails you, you want to reply in a way that sounds like you. Give it information so it just doesn't generate a generic AI response. Here's how to create one. In any chat, you can use the plus button and go into use style and then create and edit styles. Use one of these presets or create custom style, and you have to just add your writing examples. So you can upload from a Google Drive, you can paste text context. I'm going to just copy 3 emails and just paste them in here. I'm going to create style. So we're just going to just change the name of this to the inquiry responder. And then when you want to use the style, you just go back in there and load up the inquiry responder and then use the email that you've been sent, put that in, and it will automatically know how to write a response in your own voice. And you can see that it's a very, very detailed response in just made in seconds. You can set these up for different contexts, project update emails, scope writing, supplier follow-ups. Set them up once and come back to them every time. So here's the thing about styles. They carry across every chat you have. So if you're mid-project and need to dash off a quick email to a client, you don't have to set anything up. Just pick the style and go. Now let's move on to projects. This is where Claude stops being a general purpose tool and starts acting like someone who actually knows your business. A Claude project is a permanent briefing document that lives in the background of every conversation. Every time you open up that project, Claude already knows the client, the budget, the brief, and the constraints. You never explain anything twice. For interior designers, this is genuinely useful. Think about how much context you carry around for every active project, the client's personality, what's in the scope, what the building won't allow, which decisions have already been made. Right now, that lives in your head. A Claude project means it lives somewhere Claude has access to. So here's what a good project actually includes. The client, not just their name, but who makes decisions, how they communicate, and what matters most to them. The scope, what's exactly in and what's out. The style direction, specific enough that Claude can make real suggestions. The budget and timeline, the real numbers and the hard deadlines. And the constraints, building rules, what existing pieces are staying, anything that limits what's possible. The more specific you are, the better Claude performs. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Project here called the Henderson Residence. It's just a fake project, but I'm going to base it on similar projects that I've worked on in Hong Kong. And it's an apartment, it's a full renovation. The client is a former architect, so she has very strong opinions. And all of that's in this brief. I've actually just uploaded some details of this. And just a word of warning, generally when I use AI for specific real life projects, I try and keep the details that I'm putting into AI a little bit more circumspect. So I might not use their surname. I might not have like a lot of budget information, detailed budget information. So you can decide what's appropriate, but just be aware that there could be some security and privacy concerns. So once I've set up this project, we can actually add in any documents that we want into this context. So here you can actually choose a folder or add a link to some information that you can then add into a project. And the more information you link, the better the project is going to work. And I want to just understand, what should I prioritize pulling together first? What physical samples do I have? So we're just going to hit let's go and see what it gives us. So you can see here, it's got the priorities, lock in the FOIA concept, and then give you physical samples. So it's suggested that it gets the Asia veneer and a solid sample, some stone samples, and so on. So this is actually a great list. We're going, and it actually advises us to hold for later. And here are the urgent flags that sit behind this. And then it warns me to have the short list of European pieces confirmed. Now, obviously, this is a very simple project. It's not real. I don't have a ton of information, but it's already given me priorities and how I should actually organize my time, which can be very, very helpful. And of course, the more information that goes into the system instructions, the better these responses will be. So here's the thing. I didn't tell Claude that the client responds better to physical samples, or that the FOIA sets the tone for the whole apartment, or that European furniture lead timelines are timeline risk. That was all in the project brief. And Claude connected those dots and gave me a genuinely useful answer because the context was already there. And that's the difference between a tool and a studio assistant. So now that you've seen how projects work, let me show you the next layer, connectors. And this is where it gets really practical. A project holds the context you manually put in, but connectors let Claude reach into your actual tools and pull out live information without you copying anything. Your Notion, your calendar, your Gmail, Claude can go and get it. So I want to show you two things. First, what it looks like when Claude pulls from a live Notion database. And then my favorite use case, turning a raw meeting transcript into structured notes that go straight into my Notion database. So I've got the Henderson database connected to this project. And the way that I did that is you go into here with your connectors and you can see all these toggles, and I've got Notion toggled on. That there are plenty of connectors that you can use it within your projects. And the other thing that you can understand is that you can, if you have an app that doesn't directly have an integration, a connector, you can actually make your own with an MCP. That's a little bit beyond this scope of the video, but it is certainly possible. And in this example, we're going to use that Notion connector here. I have this design template. Now, this is a template that I use with my interior designer clients in my program Design for Success. And basically, I've broken down in great detail every step of an interior design project. And what we're going to do is use this database as a way of keeping all the information for this project outside of the AI. So this means that I can actually add in quite a bit of detail. And what we can also do is enter information into Claude and then get it to actually update the Notion page. So let me just show you how that's done. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to type in what is the most urgent thing that I need to deal with in Henderson. I've got a whole heap of to-do tasks and so on linked into this project. And what it will do is look through this whole project, and you'll see right at the end, we have a meeting notes. Here we've got the window closing and the April 30th, and it's actually told us what the parallel tracks are. So the procurement decisions have to be made, the concept development have to be made. Now, it also offers to help me draft a client update email, which I can do and then add that into the notes. I didn't give any of this information just now, but it went into Notion, it read the project data and came back with a prioritized list. That's the connector doing its job. So this is one of the things that saves me a lot of time. I had a call with my clients this morning. It was 20 minutes, and I took the raw transcript from Granola, and it's messy. Tangents, filler words, decisions buried in the middle of a conversation. It's basically what a real meeting looks like. So I'm going to paste in the transcript from this morning's call, and I'm going to ask Claude to turn this into structured meeting notes and add it to the meeting section of the Henderson Notion database. I'm going to ask it to include all the decisions and show the action items with owners and due dates. This is a transcript that you would get from Fathom or Granola, and I've asked it to turn into structured meeting notes and add it to the meeting section. And we are going to just go into the meetings database, and you can see I've already got 4 meetings, and we've got a meeting that was held this morning, runs through the transcript, and it finds the Henderson meeting and creates the meeting note page. So what we should do is find a page that's been created here. I've actually got a template in this meeting section notes. And so what it will do is read the template and try and fill in all the details. But you can certainly add into your instructions exactly how you want something to be updated. Here's the meeting details. It's actually given us a quick summary of here, and you can see it's got your meeting details, it's got like the agenda, then it's got the kitchen order, the Vola tapware, the lead time, and then the decisions that were made and any action items that need to be done. And these can be added into an action item database that we can then use to track our project. So you can see here from these very, very messy notes, we've actually done quite a bit of work. This is really like quite a powerful way to use the Notion database and the CoWork connector. So there we are, the new meeting note in Notion, already categorized, dated, all the action items extracted and listed. That's the admin that we have a 20-minute call, and it took around, I think it took about less than a minute to actually produce that. One thing that you have to note, the setup does take a bit of time up front. You've got to connect your Notion workspace. You've got to make sure you've got a database. But once that is done, it becomes your default workflow after every client call. And the more you use the project, the more Claude knows. And so your decision making stacks over time. One of the great things that you can also do is when the project is over, you can ask Claude to really look over the whole project and work out, the failings, things that you could have improved upon. It can even look at the Notion database and suggest improvements. And this means that it becomes this kind of symbiotic relationship where you're, constantly improving and constantly making sure that you're showing up in the best way possible for your clients and for your projects. Done. A new meeting note in Notion, already categorized, already dated, action items extracted and listed. That is the admin from a 20-minute call handled. The setup takes a bit of time up front, connecting your Notion workspace, making sure the database is organized. This is the kind of database that I create for my clients in the Design for Success program. But once you've done it, it becomes your default workflow after every client call. Transcript in, structured notes out, straight into your project management system with no manual write-up. And the more you use the project, the more Claude knows. Decisions stack up over time. And every time you ask a question, Claude has more to draw on. So we just saw how to take a raw meeting transcript and turn it into structured notes in Notion. And that's great. But here's the problem. The prompt I typed to make that happen, well, I'd have to type it in every single time. And if I want my team or even my future self to do it consistently, we need to have the same instructions every time. So that's what skills are for. A skill is a saved, reusable prompt that gives Claude a specific job to do. You write the instructions once, you write them well, then you or anyone that you work with can trigger the same workflow with minimal effort every time. So I want to show you how to build one from scratch because the process of actually building a skill is useful on its own. It forces you to get clear on what exactly you want Claude to do, in what order, and what the output should look like. It's a bit like writing a really good job description. So let's build in the meeting notes skill right now using what we did as the basis. So we're going to do a meeting note skill. And what I've done is, first of all, I've written what the skill is called, and then I tell what the purpose of this is. Now, the one thing I would like to note while it's doing its thinking is you can go into customize and you can see all your skills. We want to describe a task I want done now, and I want to build this as a usable skill. So I'm going to say, yes, I want to build this skill. So now what I want to do is put in the input. And the other thing that you have to also understand, you can see it's running a skill. So if we go back into customize and you look at the skills, these are my personal skills, but I also have built in skills. We can just go in and add a skill. So if you browse skills, what you need to do is make sure that you have this toggled on the skill creator, and you can see there's lots of different skills that you can use, but this is a very, very important one. And I've also got an MCP builder also enabled. And you see, where does the raw? Yes, we are going to go paste it in manually, and it asks me what structured format. So I want you to, yeah, I'll do it customs, and then I'm going to have a project specific database and also then the instructions. So this is what I want to happen. And also I then want to add in the output. This is what I want it to look like. So one of the things about skills is that they can be updated as you develop your skills. So if there's something that doesn't work, then you go back into the chat and ask it to update the skills. Now, it may actually ask you to copy you'll see it's got what they call the skill MD, which is a markdown file. And then what you can see now, it's actually creating this meeting notes template and to nail the page title format. And then we'll let that run and create the skill. But you can see it's going through a whole heap of progress in order to do that. Sometimes as it's developing the skill, I'll ask for permissions, and then I'm just going to click always allow. And you can see I've got a convention where you've got the meeting, there's a meeting number, and then there's a bit of a description and then the date. The other thing that I want to note is you can see in step 4, it actually creates evaluations. And these are basically test cases where Claude actually generates dummy information and then will actually test it. And you can see it's asking for permissions as it runs through that skill. It's writing the skill draft, then it'll create the test cases, then it'll run a test case. It'll actually view evaluations, and you can look at the results and then make updates. Now, what I usually do is very quickly look at the evaluation results and only make an edit if something is glaringly wrong. Otherwise, what I do is start using that skill and updating it when I get a problem or come across something that I want to improve. And I'll just update it, directly in the chat. You can see up here, it's creating these test cases and then it will run the test case. So now you can see that there is an eval review and you can open it up in your browser and you can see here's the prompt and you can look at the Notion entry and you can also give some feedback and you can see what it is without the skill. So let's go with the skill. You can see we've got discussion summary, open issues. Without the skill, we've got some decisions that are made and so on. Doesn't actually seem that bad, probably because we prompted it, but you can also compare it with the skill and without. You can write some output and you can then submit the review. So then you say submit all reviews and it'll download the feedback JSON file. Skill is packaged and ready to install. So to install it, all you have to do is double click the skill file or you can drag it into CoWork. But I'm just going to hit save skill. And anytime I paste a meeting transcript and say something like process this transcript or log this meeting, it'll automatically and it'll ask which project is it for, look up a Notion database. And this is because I might have multiple projects and I want the meeting transcript to go into the right database, which is linked to that project. So that's a skill. And the reason that this works so much better than just winging it each time is that Claude follows the same process every time. The output is consistent. The action items are always in a table. The decisions are always separated from the discussions. When you're running multiple projects, that consistency matters. Now in CoWork, I can actually save this as a skill that triggers automatically when I paste in a transcript. But even if you're just using Claude in the browser, you can save this as a text file, copy and paste it at the start of any meeting workflow, and it works in exactly the same way. The habit I'd encourage you to build anytime you find yourself typing the same instruction more than twice, that's a skill waiting to be written, and you're doing the thinking once and saving it forever. So the last thing, artifacts. So when Claude generates a response, it's usually a text in a chat window. Artifacts are different. They're fully rendered outputs, a real document, a real interactive page, a real visual that you can open, use, and share. Claude doesn't just describe it, it builds it. And for interior designers especially, this is one I use constantly because so much of what we produce for clients needs to look good, not a chat message like a professional document. So let me show you the simplest version of this and you'll immediately see the use. We've just processed that meeting transcript and we've got all the action items sitting in Notion. But here's the thing, I need to share a quick update with my clients, not a formal report, just a clean visual summary that they can open and read that shows them where things are at and what they might need to do before we go into construction. In this prompt, it includes the most urgent action items and a simple progress summary. I want it to be clean and visual, so let's go. Okay, so it's now created this status update and it's given us a link and it will show them exactly where they sit and with 3 action items. So let's just take a look. So we're going to click on Google Chrome and here we have the Henderson residence. You can go into Canva, there's slight little details. So as you can see here, we've got this beautifully designed project update for the Henderson residence, which has the action items that are requiring our sign off this week, a properly formatted client ready document with dates, action items, and a progress indicator. And it's all nicely rendered and not just typed out in a chat window. Now, you would note that these aren't maybe my colors, but you can also use skills or maintain memories which will actually use your brand colors, your brand fonts. But that's a task for another video. Now you can go much further with artifacts, interactive budget trackers, room specification sheets, client onboarding checklists that clients can actually tick off. Those really ugly spreadsheets can be turned into beautifully formatted documents. But I want you to start here with the simplest version because that's how you build a habit. So, anytime you're about to open up another tool to put together something that needs to look presentable, stop. Try Claude first. You might save yourself 30 minutes. And that's actually the thread running through everything we've looked at today. Custom instructions, custom styles, projects, connectors, skills, artifacts. None of them are complicated on its own, but it's the combination that changes how you work. When Claude knows who you are, how you write, what project you're working on, where your data lives, and what your standard workflows look like, it stops being a tool you use occasionally and starts being something that's actually running in the background of your business. And that's what I've been building, and that's what I want for you. So now you have the setup. The question is what you do with it. You can head off and join the community and join in the conversation. I'm building a ton of workflows and popping them straight into there. And understand that the designers that are getting most of these tools are not just using them more, they're using them to build actual systems in their studio. And there is a lot more on this channel on exactly how to do that. Keep watching. See you in the next video.